Welcome back to an episode of Who Saved Over My Podcast. As always, co-host Neil Strebig with me, partner in crime, Donald Double D DeCray. Today's episode, we'll be going over a very popular anime right now. Probably, I would say, I don't want to say most popular. I mean, Attack on Titan, we talked about. Demon Slayer's up there right now, but I think when it does come back for its next season, probably be the most watched. My Hero Academia. Kind of came out of left field, pretty brand new. I haven't read the manga. I know a lot of folks that read it were excited about it, and even still, the manga is relatively new too. It's kind of goes hand in hand too with releases and seasons.
Yeah, I'm trying to look and see when the first one was released. I want to say it was 2006. Oh no, I'm sorry. 2016 was the release of the anime. The manga began in 2014. So 2 years after was when the anime series premiered. So it really didn't take long to gain traction and start going. And at this point, I think things are close to caught up, or like rapidly getting close to caught up. So that's always a red flag for me in terms of, are they going to start making up their own material, or are they going to wait for the manga to progress? But yeah, it's
Such a
definitely,
purist.
dude. I really am with that stuff. I always get scared because it was Full Metal Alchemist had the same issue. The first run caught up to the manga, and then they just ended it the way they wanted to. Game of Thrones, obviously, shit the bed with, couldn't stick the
Wow.
landing on. That is the best example of,
Agreed.
of not knowing how to end a goddamn series. You had something that was like such in the cultural zeitgeist that everybody knew what it was. You had merchandising. I still have like King of the North wine bottle sitting over on my
Oh
collection
my
over there or
gosh.
whatever. Yeah, I mean, it was everywhere, man. And after the final season, no one talks about it. It's just gone.
Agree to disagree, but today's topic, we're talking anime again.
Yes.
We did our first anime episode a couple weeks back with Attack on Titan. In time with the new season,
And I
figured
think
we'd keep it
today's
going
actually the day that we're recording. I think is the release of the new season is, I'm pretty sure today in Japan.
for what, My Hero?
No, Attack on Titan.
So, oh no, I mean the new season Attack on Titan's already started.
Oh no, but isn't it? I got my dates. I got
Yeah,
my
so
dates
yeah,
mixed.
it started like 2 weeks ago, man. It started with like when we released the
Mm.
episode, you maniac.
Mm.
Listen, man, you're getting married, man. Your
My mind,
schedule and
yeah,
time frames all over the
schedules,
place,
time
man.
zones, the whole thing. Everything's just a blur.
you know, exactly, man. You think we recorded it like 2 days ago, probably. But no, we're keeping the anime trend going, and excited though as well. Again, My Hero, definitely one of the more popular ones out there. But kind of before we go over a brief and overview with it, I think we're kind of go, what made us attracted to this anime. Because it's not doesn't hit too many of the niches or the stereotypes of certain things. It kind of blends in a lot of different anime tropes and themes. So, I mean, what got you into Double D?
I mean, I think for me, what got me watching, it really just came up on like the site that I watch stuff on. I saw it as a new show, started watching it and enjoying it, and I think I enjoyed it because it was refreshing. As you said, it gets away from a lot of the tropes. Like it's not like the whole isekai thing. It's not reincarnation. The protagonist struggles. There's growth that he's making there. There's not weird romance subplots. Like it's just a nice, straightforward shonen manga where the guy comes in. He's a hero. He's a legitimately good guy. It's not, I don't have to get too deep in my feels with that stuff. Questioning of like, is this morally gray and everything else? And it's just enjoyable. You know what I mean? Like you come in and every episode is a good time. You have fun. And um, I don't think you have to have some sort of like deep understanding of the genre and the tropes and things like that to just enjoy the story that's being told. I think it's
Yeah,
very
no, I'm
approachable.
with you there. I forget. I don't think anybody introduced me to it. I think I was looking for a new show, Crunchyroll. I kept hearing some rumors of My Hero. Uh, One of the guys I worked with at the time, this is back when I was in Pittsburgh, one of the stewards, he read the manga, big fan of it. He would talk about it a bit. So it was on my radar. One of my other good friends, fan of the show as well. Hayes, I know he was watching it and he mentioned it. So I was like, okay, cool, let me check it out. And I really wasn't hooked out of the gate. I like the animation
No?
style. The animation style I thought was cool, fresh, fluid, nothing too crazy. It reminded me a bit of a Kame ga Kill with the animation fight sequences, and
Hmm.
Akame ga Kill is probably one of my maybe top anime of all time too. It's a story for another day, but I think it wasn't until the end of season one to where I was like, yeah, I was enjoying it. I liked, the main character Deku, and we'll go over a brief synopsis after this then too. But the final arc in season one, when it got and turned more mature and went from, high school kids in an anime and kind of those tropes of, coming of age tale in that first season to the actual consequences of, hey, you're living a world where people have superpowers and some people use them for good and some people do not. And that latter portion, when you see the villains introduction and shit gets real, that's when I was like, okay, I'm in on this now. Like I can get behind this. Like that was the turn I was waiting for. And I don't think I ever looked back since.
That's interesting because I think an argument could be made, and it sounds like you're making it essentially, that part of what makes the show good is the villains, right? Like I do like the feel goody stuff like that. I think there's too many things that try to be edgy today, you know what I mean? And they want to be all like dark and horror and like, I legitimately enjoy stuff like that to a certain extent, At the same time, I feel like it's overplayed. And so for me, like just a nice feel good show sometimes it really hits the spot. But I don't know that the show, I think I'm agreeing with you as I'm talking about it. I think the show hit its kind of like maturity, and the other reasons that I like it, that's kept me with it, comes from the villains, is what it comes down to.
Yeah. No, 100%, especially where it's at now. But for those of y'all that are, uninitiated, and again, this is another kind of episode to where spoilers are going to be there. We're going to talk about the show. So you haven't, checked it out after the synopsis, to either start watching it or just, bury it away and never, watch or listen to the episode ever again.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we can timestamp in where we're doing with the plot summary. I mean, I don't know. We're going to be, from here on, it's going to be anime spoilers, guaranteed. Manga stuff, I don't know, but anime for sure.
I haven't read the manga. So, I mean, if you know any of that, cool. I know some of the stuff on social.
I don't, but there's always the chance you get it right? Like, I still remember there was, when we went to see, what was it? Endgame. My fiance, a friend of hers at work, texted her, "Oh, Tony dies."
Wow.
Now.
Right before you guys walked in?
Like literally like a day or like the week we went to see it, sometime earlier in that week, because like he knew we were going to see it or whatever. And the thing is, we still don't know for a fact if he actually knew what he was talking about or who's just being a dick and like saying random important character dies.
Still, she get stone cold stunner for that.
Oh my god, she was so pissed at him. I was pissed at him. It was a whole thing. And he swears up and down he was just like, I was just saying shit. Like I had no idea that like that actually happened. And like, he stuck by that story, so I can't tell, or if that's like his only way of not getting beat, because we were both fucking fuming over that.
Yeah, that's suspect, man.
But honestly, I mean, I agree.
By the laws of nerdom, I think
life is forfeit.
Paragraph 20, section 5. You guys are allowed to RKO him at any given moment.
Yeah, man. I mean, I guess we'll see. But so my point is, none of us know anything about the anime or the manga rather per se. Spoilers might happen unintentionally, and so if that does happen, I do apologize, but it's going to be a spoiler zone.
As far as the quick overview, I've actually gotten a lot of friends that don't watch anime into My Hero. One of my exes never watched anime, so she used to watch hentai, which is kind of an odd thing, but neither here nor there. Yeah, very strange. I mean, we can do a whole episode on that.
Okay.
Got her into it. Another one of my good friends, back home, Pennsylvania. She watched some anime to Nami age, but got out of it. Hasn't really watched as an adult, and fell in love with the show as well. And I always describe it as it's X-Men meets Dragon Ball Z. It definitely takes the X-Men mutant powers and some of the sensibilities of what that means for the world, prejudices, good guys, bad guys with that. And then also to I think the combat and growth cycle of you have these heroes in Dragon Ball Z, but there's always some bigger kind of challenge facing them, but it doesn't hit the same tropes as DBZ. It just again, an anime that's easy to watch, easy to digest. And essentially what happens in the world is these people have quirks. So people develop quirks, and these quirks are basically superpowers. Call them metahumans, whatever you want to refer to them as. Everybody's different. It could be something as simple as super strength. It could be something as complex as being able to control, somebody's actions as soon as they talk, and then zapping their power once you get like basically their vocal cords. Like crazy complex, crazy simple. And they have My Hero Academia, big high school used to actually help kids with powers. They want to become superheroes. You become basically your job and profession is a superhero. And of course, there's villains in the world. Superheroes I put into districts to help combat some of the villains with quirks if they want to use their powers for evil. And the main character in the first couple of seasons, All Might, who's an American in Japan, which is kind of funny in
He's just
itself.
Is he actually canonically an American? I thought he just was
I
like
think so. Yeah, I
that's
mean, he's always
that's
like
his
Texas
theme.
Smash and stuff. I thought so. In
I
the
thought it was
one
just
movie,
his
they
theme.
kind of
You know what I mean?
explained it.
Like his branding or whatever. Essentially, I didn't
So,
think he
well,
was
maybe
like
I know because I
canonically
thought the one movie they
American.
said like he started in America and like came over to My Hero in
Oh
like
my god, we
Japan
have to
then.
check that out. That's
But
hilarious if true.
but he's basically number one hero because there's a whole ranking system and everything else. And he ends up saving one of the main characters in the show. Miyadora goes by Deku, is a superhero name, and their relationship basically is the catalyst for the entire show and premise. And for those of y'all that watch, you are aware the main character doesn't actually have a quirk. He was born quirkless, which is kind of its own taboo in society. Even his mom has a quirk. She can basically pick up heavy objects or light objects. If I remember correctly, she can like levitate him or something. They only show it like once, but no, Deku is born quirkless. It's its own kind of taboo in the universe that's created in the world. And we find out All Might can transfer his power. So when he's able to take basically the most powerful ability in this universe, and you're over the prepubescent adolescent teenager, he's like what 14, 15 at the time. It's interesting because it doesn't pull back punches as far as even just physicality of developing your quirk. Him going through puberty without ever having a quirk and abilities, you see how he ends up inflicting pain on his own body. And I think that really makes this, an interesting show to watch because it's like, okay, you have all these people with superpowers, but then you have basically someone that's getting a power without any training. And what does it actually do to, the biological parts of your body? Like you go to punch somebody with super strength with your arm, your entire arm is broken then because of the sheer force.
Yeah, and like in some ways, one of the things that I personally enjoy are hero shows, superheroes, comics, whatever, that deal with like, what if this was real, right? Like if we step outside of the fantasy for a second, if we applied our understanding of the world in physics, what would that look like, or our understanding of people? And so you get shows like The Boys and stuff where you look at like the darker side, capitalism of heroes, and what that would look like, for example, the way people abuse powers and stuff like that. And like what you're touching on here, like with his training essentially is like if someone completely untrained in their body, just a normal person, just randomly inherits powers, could their body handle that? You know what I mean? Like there has to be something supporting that. So like, great, your muscles are super strong. It doesn't make your bones any stronger. You know what I mean? Like just because your muscles are strong doesn't mean that you can support the force of that with your bones are just going to crumble unless there's some sort of specialty training or something backing that up behind that. And, so the first season of a lot of this, he gets his powers, he trains, he becomes better. He applies to the number one school in the country, UA, where All Might graduated as well. And then we start having the school arcs where, it's the sports festival, battle training, sports festival. We start getting the hero killer starts coming out. Final exams is like the first year.
Stain.
Yeah, Hero Killer Stain, which is an interesting character we'll probably come back to with future discussions. I'm glossing over a lot of arcs here, I think. But
there's a lot, yeah. It basically goes, the first one introduction, Deku gets powers, and we don't gotta go through the whole synopsis. If you watch it from this kind of basically, you haven't watched it, this piques an interest, go check it out. From this point on the show, we assume you're caught up, you watch a portion of it, and we're gonna dive a bit in the weeds of kind of, why we kind of keep watching this and what we think the show, what about the show is interesting and keeps people coming back, because it does have it doesn't really have too many anime tropes, but it does hint in a lot of different genres. And in, all objective terms, it's a pretty simple show. It could honestly be a Saturday morning cartoon, but here we are both in our 30s and we watch it religiously and are quite frankly hooked to see where it goes.
Yeah.
So how do you get a spectrum like that is kind of, what we're going to dive into and talk more about, because there is a lot, and there's a lot of different arcs. And I think you're kind of hitting that, like the character development, I think for me at least is monumental. And I don't see too many animes that does it as well as My Hero does.
Yeah. Let me think about that for a sec. Yeah. I mean, I think what I like about it is, for me, it's got that feel a little bit of like a Bleach or something in terms of the character you see is visibly powering up, learning to control their powers. It's not just like an off screen. Like, it's not like, first of all, isekai, which has flooded recent animes, of just like, I am just amazing at someone. Again, this a Reddit person got very angry at me for saying this, because isekai is just being born to another world. But the typical trope with that is when you're reborn with insane powers or skills or knowledge or something that makes you in that setting overpowered. I hate that to a certain extent. One, because it's overdone, but two, because I like seeing growth of those powers. Like, I like seeing people like learn new things and new skills and abilities, and character growth as well. And you see that with Midoriya. You see that as he's becoming a hero, what it means to be a hero, as he's developing those powers, and it's a constant theme. And it doesn't just happen off screen. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just like, oh, montage. Hey, I'm powered up. You know what I mean? And like, he comes out and he's just like, and it just is. You get to be there with it a little bit, and in some ways I think it keeps the show grounded when we have some kind of insane battle sequences and stuff, and some of the powers we see are ridiculous, over the top, matter reconstruction and all that type of thing. And like, it still is about a kid who had nothing, or thought he had nothing, in this world of everyone's super powered and he's just normal, and what does that mean to be normal in a world where everyone's special? And coming to grips with that, becoming powerful, and working and earning his position. That, it's not just something that's given to him that he just gets because of circumstance.
So, well, I mean, it is given to him, but it's a journey of earning that power, though, too. And a big portion, too, I kind of left out the synopsis, is he idolizes All Might as well, which is a big factor to this. And
creepy fanboyism.
And All Might wasn't going to give him his power because of that in a lot of ways. And we find out later on he was going to give it to one of the top heroes at My Hero and top of their class.
He should have.
And the portion that changes the whole thing was Deku basically runs in without any powers to save his best friend Bakugo. And that act of heroism, knowing that there's nothing you can do, but you're trying to save someone who does have powers against a supervillain, that's what changed All Might's mind. And that dynamic, though, was always brought up, I think, every season, as far as Deku's advancement and the idea that he has to own these powers, and somewhat of a Spider-Man kind of take with the great responsibility kind of thing of,
it definitely has that theme, yeah.
All Might's number one hero, you could replace him. Can you actually replace him? And then Bakugo and Deku's rivalry as far as, childhood friends, and then Bakugo also idolizes All Might and wanting to be top heroes. All those rivalries between classmates and everything else is super interesting itself. I think, to your point too, the training and the montages, what makes this so watchable too, it's unlike DBZ, to where we're going to have 65 episodes of just training, and then it's going to be the same villain fight. And I'm sorry, DBZ fans, like, I love DBZ, I still watch it, but it's a bad anime. It's just nostalgia at this stage, and it's the same fight. And then as soon as Goku wins, the main villain becomes part of the gang again.
They re-released it with things edited down, and I think it comes off a lot better.
But with My Hero, unlike DBZ training montages, like when Deku goes to train with All Might's mentor Gran Torino, it's about maybe 5-6 episodes tops. And even those later two episodes, like episodes 5 and 6, we start seeing other characters introduced, and it's moving along at a much faster rate. Mm-hmm. So you don't have those lulls in animes to where you might have a whole season where it's just training, which is usually the case in animes like this, to where they really drag things out. But it's also not rushed either. Like, to me, the pacing is really what makes this show so great. And the cliffhangers, almost every episode, it then bebops back to, okay, Deku's training, learns a new power. You think he's going to get over a hump, and then the villain's throwing a curveball. You're like, what the hell?
So here's like, looking at, why is the show entertaining? Why, if you were trying to decide to watch the show, why should you watch it? Do you like Harry Potter? Neil's been listening to me comment this a couple of times now. I really think this is the anime version of Harry Potter. Kid goes to school with his powers. He's fighting a villain outside of school. The villain comes into the school, invades the school, and attacks it, right? And then we now have the most current arc in the anime, obviously, is the Paranormal Liberation Army. That's happening outside the school. I guarantee you, at some point, Deku is going to leave school to go fight villains. Like that's, and whether he graduates or not, like I'm not sure. But if he doesn't graduate, that's like literally just like following the books, Harry Potter all the way. This is Japanese Harry Potter. So if you like Harry Potter, watch it.
I mean, I guess I could see that because instead of the schools, you have classes like class 1A, class 1B, definitely competing against each other.
Well, they even have the different career
personality
tracks, right?
clashes.
Because they have the hero course, which is where Deco is. They have the support course for the people who like build the gadgets and stuff. There's like a sidekick or whatever thing as well. Like they have different courses. So like they don't have houses, but they definitely have like the different courses based on your powers. So when you come in, you get sorted, right? They have their own sorting hat ceremony, whatever that
There's
is,
a
where they sort these
giant,
people out to decide whether or
challenge
not they
to
have
sort people out.
whether or not they have the powers of the level necessary to be a hero, or whether they're going to be more of a support role or a sidekick or something else. You know what I mean? Like, are they information gathering? Because we do kind of see that in this world, like some powers end up not being the face of the company. They end up doing things behind the scenes. Equally important is always what we're told, but end of the day, you know, the face characters, the heroes is what everyone wants. Fucking Gryffindor. I'm telling you. Gryffindor categorized by their bravery. Deco categorized by his bravery, his willingness to save his friends and go in despite the danger. I'm telling you, it's fucking Harry Potter.
Oh my! So who's like Ravenclaw then?
Ravenclaw, the Smarties,
Mhm.
they got to be most of the support class. What was that chick who was making all the gadgets for like
Oh,
all the
May
class?
Hatsume.
There you go.
I
Yeah.
got the hots for Sume.
I mean,
She's one of my favorite characters in it, man.
really,
So, yeah, absolutely.
that's
She's a
hilarious.
G. Like she's
I mean, she's happy where she is, right? Like some of the kids are salty about not being hero course or not being like class 1A, which is, you know, top tier. She's very happy with what she does.
her whole targets on her eyes, but her power scope is kind of crazy. But she's one of my faves. There's a lot. I don't know. There's a lot of characters I do like. There's a lot less that I don't that I hate or dislike.
Well, let's get into some of the
The
controversial ones then. What's your take on Bakugo? Let's go right for him.
I like Bakugo. He doesn't bother me. I mean, he can be a bit annoying at times with
Okay.
the whole Vegeta, I'm stubborn or like gotta be a badass, too cool for school shit. But like
Draco Malfoy, yes.
he he is a beast. He's introduced as basically super gifted, student. His quirk is one of those that's is very versatile, can do a lot of different things with it, offensively, defensively. And his rivalry then too with Deku is kind of he's pissed off because he's always been better than Deku. And then he develops the power and he's like, how is all of a sudden the kid I used to pick on basically, surpassing me? So that rivalry comes out of it. But at the core, he still wants to be a hero. And I think in the later seasons, then too, even with his stubbornness and his aggressiveness, you see him willing to put his life on the line to help out his other students and, classmates and just anybody in general. And there's a lot of character development in that. And it's unlike Vegeta, that's kind of just wants the boasting and all that. He still wants to be a hero at his core. And it's still, I think, rooted more in adolescence of someone, coming to terms with, who they are as an individual. And I think maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think that's a cool thing with this anime. It does it very subtly as far as, yes, these guys are kids, but they're fastly becoming adults. And it's very clear we're not going to see them just as kids throughout this, anime's tenure, which usually is the case with these animes. So
right.
In that sense, it's cool to see them actually grow. And we know we're going to see them as adults at some points as well.
And we mentioned that before in terms of, and if it's not clear, right, character relationships, character growth, both personal and like by their powers and stuff, is a central theme to the show. And I think a big draw for a lot of people. Bakugo's relationship with Midoriya, Deku, depending on, I'm white. What do I know?
I just say Deku because Midoriya I'm going to mispronounce nonstop.
Oh, so. Izuku. I don't know. Yeah, like their relationship, it's very much, but again, this is also maybe part of, we can touch on a little bit why this might have appeal for viewers who are our age that are adult, right? Like this is a class of society, 100%. Your abilities that you're born with, because traits, quirks tend to be inherited, determine a lot your potential and what you can achieve in the society. You find jobs that are suited to your quirk. You can't be a hero. You can't even be in the class 1A, if your quirk isn't sufficiently powerful or versatile or whatever that in their mind it takes to be a hero. They literally have like the other courses that we just talked about, like the support courses and stuff like that, for people that like don't have powers that rise to whatever level. So, you know, Bakugo is one of those. He represents sort of the elite here in terms of he was born with everything in his favor. He has a very powerful quirk. In some ways, it's very simple because it's just, I think his sweat can explode. And like one of the things that I think is also that Bakugo makes a great point of showing is how much the equipment and stuff that the heroes use really shape their abilities and powers. Because when he gets those, they look like grenades on his hands, where he's able to channel that sweat and then he can control the explosions more. That control that he ends up developing, which he has to learn, leads into all kinds of other powers and or ways of using that one power essentially that, again, his character is leveling up. It's growing, right? Like at first he's just creating explosions, so he touches things with a sweat and explodes or whatever. And then, you know, now he's able to channel those so he can make more powerful punches and destroy things, to where he's flying around. He's making controlled explosions coming out of his hands and like channeling that to like lift himself up and be able to fly effectively. Mm-hmm. You know, you really see how the character grows and levels up. Compared to Midoriya, Deco is born with no powers. This is the most horrible thing in the world for him. And then he gets the powers from All Might. He inherits, and now he becomes potentially the strongest person in the world. And now he doesn't just be there, right? Like we talked about the training and stuff before. But I think it's funny you say Bakugo, though, is like Vegeta and like at his core wants to be a good guy, because there was the moment where they specifically, the villains capture Bakugo just to try to make him a villain. Like that's all they want to do, because they think they can corrupt him. And he says no. Like 100%. He's like, no, I'm not going to be that guy. I love that. No,
big time. And that comes out of the sports festival too.
Well, I think that was the Forest Training Camp.
You're right. So
sports festival, 3. I think, is where they got their eye on him.
They noticed him, and then
because he carries a lot of like deep seated issues, right? Like he's got rage, he's got like an inferiority complex. He's bothered by the fact that Deku has become somebody when he was nobody. He was a fucking punching bag beforehand. And now all of a sudden he's being, you know, praised, and people are looking at him differently and everything else. And like that's him. He's supposed to be the one with the praise and everything else. And so their relationship in the beginning, if I had to say one negative thing about this show, I'm sure there'll be more as we go along, it's a very abusive relationship. Bakugo straight up abuses Deku when he was powerless. Like they were friends, but like when you get like Bakugo's take on it, he's just like straight up disrespecting him. Nothing redeeming about that relationship in the like elementary school years, basically.
Yeah, no, 100%. It definitely is. But no, what I was gonna say was the gaps between the heroes and even the villains. Like the last season, we saw My Villain Academia, because we get the story of how all these heroes are maturing. Class 1A is kind of put into the gambit with these villains coming out of them, and they have experience fighting villains what other classes don't. So on paper, it seems like they are more experienced, but then we also see the classes go head to head, and we see basically them not having class time to work on abilities, as you pointed out too, with, you know, Bakugo learning out how to basically, you know, have marksmanship with his explosion power, stuff like that. How much the gaps then have closed, and maybe they're not as experienced as we think. And then we also then see the villains go through their manifestations and how, you know, they improve their powers after they fight the Liberation Army. And I think that's a cool dichotomy too. But the most intriguing part still to me is with My Hero is there's so many different heroes, so many different arcs going, and they're all kind of on their own different pathways. Like, yes, they all kind of connect and stuff, and there's intersections and stories, but each hero and each villain has a different type of goal and each different type of path of getting to that goal of what they actually see themselves as and who they want to be. And, you know, some of the intersections kind of combine, and we see that, but there's no shortage of growth on either side. I don't think there's a single character in the show that hasn't had some sort of compelling storyline where I'm like, yeah, that's not a positive. Like, you know, the guy that controls animals is lame because he doesn't talk, but like he's shown, even him, like his powers have grown quite a bit, and him being a scaredy cat of not even wanting to fight to where he is now. And same thing with the guy that eats sugar. He's kind of a bum.
Sugar Rush,
don't like him. Yeah, he's just kind of lame because it's like,
what about Gray Pet? How you feel about
has he had you go into diabetic shock and then you're pretty much done. Like, yeah, I don't want you on my side in a fight there, buddy. But
I mean, what about what's his name? Like Big Gum or whatever, the guy who's like literally just like fat all the time.
Oh, Fat Gum. Yeah.
Yeah, Fat Gum.
He's a G though too, because like we see him in the Yakuza arc was one of my favorites as well. And we see Eri, and we get introduced to what's his name? The guy that basically
Shia
phases through
Hasaik
like Shadow Cat.
Shia Hasaikai? Is that how you say it?
So yeah,
The Matter
what's his hero name?
Rearranger?
Yeah. And then because he was a G2, and we kind of see the gap between the top three students in my My Hero Academia, and then what class 1A is, because I always see is that class 1A is clearly the top notch of the first year students,
Mhm.
and then you see the actual like seniors essentially in the school, and it's like, holy shit, these guys are a whole different level.
Well, and the seniors, I think, do a good job too of highlighting that it's not just having the powers, it's the way you use it, right? Because that's where we find out Togata, one of the Lemillion, as his hero name is,
Yeah.
his quirk is permeation, right? Like, it's a very simple quirk on the surface in terms of he can go through things. It's how you use it, right? So him being able to make parts of his body permeable and other parts not, he can get punched without being punched back. He can go through walls. He can, it's very much in terms of just being able to pass through things doesn't seem maybe as awesome. And you're right. Like, there's definitely, gosh, what's her name from X-Men? You mentioned her just now.
Kitty Pryde. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Kitty Pryde has that, similar concept to Kitty Pryde for sure, right? But like, it shows that like he can do this, but like if he didn't train his body, for example, being punched by him wouldn't matter, right?
Yeah.
His
He's
control
also
of
one
it.
of my all-time favorite X-Men too. Neither here
Really?
nor there, but Kitty Pryde's a G. Yeah. Switching gears though.
Yeah.
Who are your favorites? Hero side and villain side, or you got a mix in there?
It's got to be a mix. We've mentioned this before, and so now might be a good time to talk that I think the villains make the show.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of reasons. One, I think the villains primarily drive the plot, right? Like the characters, the heroes all have their motivations for like being a hero and why, but there wouldn't be a need for heroes without villains, right? Like if no one was going around messing things up, like why bother?
Mm-hmm.
And so we get hero killer Stain, and his whole thing is like the society, this class of society and everything else. Like it's not good and it's fundamentally flawed. He's invited by the League of Villains, doesn't join. So I'm trying to think who my favorite villain would be. I'm going to go with Gigantomachia.
Okay.
So the character himself doesn't have much in the way of like storytelling going on. He's insanely powerful, completely loyal to All for One. And it's only when he acknowledges Shimura that, I'm saying Shimura, is that his proper name? Shigaraki? I don't know. Does he have a villain name?
Oh, Tamora?
Tamora. Yeah. He has like his kid name and then he has like his villain name or whatever. But yeah, Disintegration Man doesn't get to be what he is. I will argue actually that his character becomes relevant because of Gigantomachia. Like his fight with him, his acknowledgement and his acceptance of him and him becoming then the ultimate leader of the League of Villains is all because of Gigantomachia in the first place, which puts him, I think, in one of the more pivotal roles for the series. And the way that character was used in the fight with the Paranormal Liberation Army, I loved it. I thought it was great. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I like him maybe for story reasons more than anything else. For actual personality, gotta go with my frog girl, Suyu.
Oh, Sue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, frog girl, man. Froppy. She's great. Her powers aren't anything special per se, but like again, that she shows like she's savvy about her stuff. She's savvy about other people. Good coordinator, good leader. She's nice. I mean, in I think, how do I say this? The character is one that could have easily gone off the rails to like weird, porny stuff, and it didn't. You know what I mean? Like she very firmly stays as like just a high school student trying to be a hero and everything else. And this is less of maybe the character as much as the author, maybe to his credit for not going that way. But like, I love the character all the more for that of like, hey, we kept this character PG when we could have easily taken this a different way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think cosplayers have definitely taken Froppy a different way, but
oh god, don't tell me that.
So yeah, you can go down. I mean, pretty much all the heroes you go down that rabbit hole.
They're all guys. They're children.
But, I mean,
stop
what
sexualizing children.
Some weird. So yeah, I mean, what anime doesn't have some weird sexual tension and sexualization going on?
I mean,
there?
Please, can we stop? Like, shout out to society. Can we stop sexualizing minors? No, this is a real gripe of mine. I just got done with a show that I liked enough that I went to read the light novel. We talked about this briefly before, and the story itself is a solid story. with completely unnecessary sexual side stories and undertones and everything else. And the fact that right now the people listening to this don't know what show I'm talking about highlights the extent of this problem. Right? Solid plot line, unnecessary sexualization of things, and like minors. And then this got even weirder because like it made a point in the novel, like the light novel when I read it, to talk about how the one character doesn't look like she aged past middle school. Middle school. I was like, and she's one of the main love interests, right? Like she's one of the main love interests is this person who she's 50 years old but looks like a middle schooler. And I'm like, this is just so weird.
Yeah.
Can we just stop with this shit?
There's a lot there too, and we could have an episode to talk about that. But
oh my,
sexual, the repressed sexual tension in Japan and the whole patriarchy, and there's a whole culture of people just not having sex though too. So I think that goes a lot into it.
Do they really just not have sex? Is that like I don't know enough I think about Japan.
Has a whole like a social epidemic essentially to where husbands basically aren't having sex with their wives. It's a whole issue, and people just aren't having sex. Have been I forget the term for it, but it's usually younger males under 35 locked in the rooms playing video games all day, not socializing. They're not going out. So there's a lot of that, but anime always has kind of had that weird sexual tension, and it's always the jokes and you see the gifs. I mean, Christ, Time, where I talked about the show last time we talked about Time on Titan, who got me an anime. I think anytime I expect Akame ga Kill, because that one does a lot of comedy mixed in, but like there'd be this crazy fight sequence, insane, awesome anime, adult tones. He'd come walking in and there's like a titty bounce. And it's like, does the anime zoom in and like a tit jiggle? And I'm like, God damn it. Like, this is like, this is inappropriate.
I mean, it really is though.
Every anime has
but
that.
I don't know if that's a justification to make it okay. And the thing for me that really is like, why specifically minors? Right? Like so they're repressed sexual society. They need more sex in their lives. And then you get all the flat chest jokes. You get all the looks like a middle schooler jokes or is in high school. Like there's a lot of like this stuff of like, it's very obviously targeting young and like early adolescence, prepubescence, even depending on like the middle school stuff. You're like, maybe like, you're not even for sure in puberty, right? Like it's showing what you're going through at that point. And like that was so, I did finish reading the novel for the record, because I'm one of those, it's very hard to get me to walk away from something once I started it, but it was just so completely uncalled for. And like, I'll try to bring this back now to My Hero. Like, it doesn't have any of that, right? Like the characters are in there. There is a nice, sweet romance going on between some of the various characters and relationships. And it's strongly implied that even characters that aren't the main focus have relationships going on. Like, you're going to be the name guy for this, so help me out. Who's our lightning boy can shoot?
Christ, the one like name I didn't write down before.
The one name.
yeah. Hold on. Him with the chick with the ear jacks.
Yes.
Talking about. Yes.
Yeah, because she's Jiro.
You beat me to it. Yeah.
That's the girl. The guy though, what is his name?
Denki.
Yeah. So you have this side story romance, right, between the two, little sparky man and earphone jack girl, like whatever. You get it's going on. It's there in the background. It's sweet. It's wholesome. And there's no weirdness about it. No overt sexualization. Like, I love that. That's great. Fucking love it. You know what I mean? Because that's what I'm here for. I'm not here for the weird, creepy, like, whatever male fantasy of I'm a repressed Japanese man who needs to get off to middle schoolers and justify this legally by making them 500-year-old demons or whatever the fuck. Ugh.
Well, we went down an odd rabbit hole there, but I mean, I think the biggest cure for it is one, just write, decent stuff in the sense of how My Hero approaches it. Or I think the easiest route is just draw appropriately. If you want to have curvy, voluptuous, characters, I don't know, make them, 18 at least, not 17. Maybe just get around that. Just change the number. Just say their age is what it is. That's all. You know what I mean? It's a pretty easy thing to get around. But, that is part of anime culture, unfortunately. Doesn't take away from My Hero. And we kind of went down a rabbit hole.
And thank God it doesn't. And that's the entire point. Again, why people should watch this show, if they don't, is because you're not going to get those weird sexual things going on. It's not about that. They don't go in that direction at all. It's much more wholesome than that, which is great. I love it.
You're talking about your top heroes, though. We'll get back to that. Are those your main two?
Yeah. Gigantomachia, I just think is so fucking cool. I tried to justify it with story stuff, but I'll just be honest. I think he's fucking amazing with all his powers and just ripping everything to shreds. I love it. And Froppy, she's a real G. I love her.
No, I mean I know I get a lot. If I'm like building a team, like X-Men
A
team, like
team. No, you get
five,
three. You get three. Well,
Okay.
because
Who's
we
your
see.
third then? Who's your third?
Well, Gigantomachia wouldn't be on the team though. He's a villain. I don't know if he would come over.
I mean, it's your
Hmm.
squad. Who cares? It's your squad. It's easy like the guys you're riding or dying.
Uh,
I'm not taking into consideration, where their,
all right, all
ethics
right,
and
all right. Well,
morality
no,
lie.
well, this is a different question than before. Who I like and who I would put on a squad, because it is three. I think it's three, and I'll say why it's three. Because when they did like the battle trials and stuff, it was teams of what was it, like five maybe total.
Yeah.
But we see typically there's the big three in the school. That's a team of three that's talked about. When they're doing their training with their provisional licenses, you have Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki as three rolling out again. So my number is three. So let me go. I would definitely take Tokoyami with his Dark Shadow. I think he's a very cool
He's a
character.
G.
Complex. You know what I mean? I enjoy him and his powers. Absolutely. Our boy with the voice.
Shingo, you talking about?
Yes. Gets
Yeah.
promoted to class 1A. He earns his way in. And I love that because like he was one of those that like society told him he wasn't good enough. Essentially, like his power was too niche or whatever to be useful. He got his gear. He started training under our eye Eraserhead, and I appreciate him as well because I could definitely see him having his own side story about his struggles and stuff of like trying to be a hero and basically being told like he doesn't make the cut essentially and fighting his struggles there. And then Froppy would still make my three for sure. I couldn't drop her regardless.
That's fair. That's fair. As far as, all right, am I saying favors or am I saying my team?
All right, give me do what I did. Top two favorite characters, regardless
Top two
of
favorite
whatever. But if you were to put
characters. All right,
together
well,
a team
I
of
think my
three,
top two favorite characters is tough because I think I say this too because when I was watching it, I kind of was just like, huh, that's kind of looks like me. That's kind of how I act. And then multiple friends that watch the show
are you
have said this is me when I'm older, and like the other character is definitely
is,
me when I'm older. So
is Todoroki
Eraserhead,
with the
Eraserhead and Gran Torino.
how are Razorhead and Gran Torino your boys, man? Tell me
Well,
this,
I think
please.
Eraserhead and I, the dark looks, I
The
think
dark
go
looks,
hand in
they're just
hand.
hating
Yeah,
everyone.
exactly. Yeah, and just leave me alone. You know what I mean?
Oh my.
But good nature. I mean, I think Gran Torino, yes, getting that excited for chicken fingers, basically. I think that goes over my alley.
No way. No way.
No, those two are two of my favorites. I do like them a lot because Gran Torino is a G as an old man, and his power is simple. I mean, jet. He basically has flying boots. Essentially, he can fly with his feet, jet around. Still puts himself in danger and still goes after it. I think Eraserhead ultimately too super useful power, but the idea then too that he can erase people's powers as long as he's looking at them, but the time limit then put on that as far as he's gonna have to blink at a certain point. And we see him fight multiple people, and he's put his powers around two restraining folks, so he knows his limited time frame. I think that's kind of an interesting thing of you have a somewhat OP power, but at the same time too, tables can be turned on you in an instant, and all it really requires is getting dust in your eye, essentially. I think that's interesting, but I do like Shoto a lot too. I mean, anybody that has ice powers, as you know, Iceman, Nightcrawler, my two favorite X-Men. Anybody that has ice powers, I mean, as Death in Kami Ga Kill is the ultimate,
Oh god.
So I just simp for life with as Death there. But, ice powers to me are just a trump. It's just how do you get around it? They're just cool. There's so much you can do with that. They're always very versatile.
They are
So
versatile.
always going to be a soft spot there. So if I'm building a team, Shoto's definitely on it because of the ice power. I like Toga's craziness a lot too. I think she's one of my faves. I mean, she's definitely seems like someone I definitely have a fling with, kind of crazy. She's going to stab me. I don't know. I like where it's going to go. I like the risk factor.
This speaks so much to your personality. I wasn't prepared.
This could end really well. This could end very poorly. I don't know. See where it goes.
So that's two.
No, I don't know if I'll put Toga on the team because her power is OP though too, transforming. Should have thought about this before we recorded.
Yeah. This is actually a real good question. We definitely should have considered this
Shoto
a little bit.
for sure. I want to almost put Deku in there because he is OP in a lot of ways too, and like it is a power that is also versatile with the power and the speed and how he is manifesting new powers within it. All for one is definitely you know there's a
Look,
lot you can do with it,
the
but
one
he
thing that
doesn't
I
have complete
think
control over it yet.
the one thing I think I'm going to call a little bullshit on is I don't like that he's now coming out with other powers. I don't like that. I think
Yeah, I mean
to me that's a
it's a
little
lot.
convenient, maybe as like as a plot point. You know what I mean? Like All Might got by with just super strength and the incredible strength to blow away pretty much like any obstacle or anything that would cross his path. Right?
Mhm.
It's made very obvious through the growth arc and stuff like that that like Deku's not going to be able to fully utilize the power that comes with One for All until he's probably a grown adult. Like again, his body's not going to be able to take it. It's going to take years of training and stuff to get to the level where he can 100% make use of that power. And then they kind of cheap out, I think, by coming out with these other powers now that like, oh, actually, this now has a grain of the power of everyone that it passed through. But because the power of One for All is essentially magnification, it magnifies your strength at a base level. It also now magnifies all of these quirks previously. So like he's
Well, see, I'm going
he's
to
not gonna
disagree
have
with you
one. He's gonna
there,
have like
though.
5 quirks that are gonna be OP. This is
See, I'm going to
bullshit.
disagree with you there because it's very clear that he can't use all those powers at full capacity how the other users had them. But why I disagree mainly too is because it's assuming we kind of were assuming that everybody gets All for One is passed down is just super strength. So it's kind of the idea then too of okay, if someone like if you were to give it to Lemillion, how would that have changed Lemillion's structure too? So I do think it does kind of navigate that as far as if a character with the quirk inherits this, how does that change? And it was always clear that it's always a manifestation. And then on the villain side, we see them basically getting their own mutations and kind of going around that. And one for whatchamacall, All for One, clearly can manipulate his own powers and give those out to people. So I do think it is a counterbalance there because you have one hero that is essentially the ace. And if he goes, how do the other heroes then deal with that? How can they work together to ultimately fight enemy that they really can't win against then? Because there's a lot more trump cards in the villain's favor. But I mean, you even have whatchamacallit, the main villain.
Tamura?
Yes, with him now being able to basically touch one person and erase and decay anybody within the vicinity that's also touching them.
Yeah,
And that's a
anything
pretty
touch.
OP thing there is now.
I mean,
So
arguably
like
he could disintegrate the world, right? Like in theory, he could like touch the
exactly. So
ground, and everything that's touching the ground could be disintegrated if he wanted to.
we're seeing things go in that direction anyway. So that's why I get what you're saying because it's like okay, now we kind of are getting Deku getting the trope of main character, all the powers.
All
There's
right, hang
nothing you
on.
can do against this guy, kind of the Goku effect. But it's still you got the learning curve. Can he do it all on his own? I'm with you. I do think he's going towards that route to where he feels he's going to have to do it on his own and leave for whatever reason may be and kind of become an anti-hero in some ways. And we also don't know too if like, he's essentially hearing voices talk to him. Like there's a possibility he goes crazy.
Top 3 for your team would be
Thinking about it, Shota Toga stays because Toga can now also clone and use people's powers. So that is clutch in itself. And Eraserhead would be my third because Eraserhead is a G. And I think between, being able to clone, you know, decipher people, kind of, getting behind enemy lines, so to speak, Eraserhead always having a trump card, be able to at least stop you and making it just a, hand-to-hand combat situation. And then Shoto is just a G. I mean,
I mean,
you
if we're
talk
going for
about the
power,
elitists.
we're going for power. You got to throw in the guy twice with the split personality.
Yeah, I mean, he's a G2, but again, we see that he's already kind of crazy himself. So
Yeah,
can I
but like,
really
isn't
trust
the
him? I
point
don't
of
know.
his arc in My Villain Academy when he
Mhm.
basically gets over his schizophrenia and like is able to just create? And the thing is, too, like, don't forget, he uses it to clone himself all the time. He could clone literally anything else if he wanted to,
Yeah.
right? Like, he can make copies
No,
of everything. So,
which is cool. And
you
that's why I
know,
think to your
the
point too
anti-drug that
with
makes you not quirkless anymore. He could clone that infinitely and just literally just
yeah.
unquirk the world.
Well, that's why I think even with your point, with like I think it's concerned with Deku and the manifestation of all these powers, but we're seeing that, and even twice, you could make the case twice as the most powerful character in this universe because of that. Is literally his essentially limitless. There's nothing he couldn't do or really have any sort of counter to, except for him limiting himself, basically. So I think that's the interesting part because all the characters, heroes or villains, they all have their own kind of OP attributes. And I think that's what makes it interesting. But they're still kind of falling around, path of the hero or path of the villain, how they're going to get to where they're going and where these battles line up to see really who's left.
Do you buy the story that we got for the creation of All for One and One for All? Like, he created All for One. I understand his brother, the original One for All, was quirkless. His brother pitied him, essentially, especially because his power will let him take other quirks, move them around and stuff like that. So he's an insanely overpowered individual. His brother sucks, and he's like, here, even you can manage something with this. Gives him what is arguably the only quirk in existence, which legitimately will beat him eventually, right? Because All for One's power lets him take other powers, but they don't become stronger. He can combine them in various ways. Like, he gets like cool combo moves and stuff like that, but like they're not individually stronger than they were. Now that we know the true nature of One for All, like, you could plan who this goes to so it picks up all the right quirks and stuff, and it just infinitely becomes stronger as it goes forward.
Well, I think you're getting to the root of why we kind of love this show, and we've talked about a lot. My Hero aside, just in general, comic books and video games, villains make the hero. And I think with One for All, what he basically did then, what he wants to do is destroy basically the elite society of heroes get paid, and there's always this hero. And to him, it's blurred lines. You have quirks, and it's basically, Darwinism's survival of the fittest, so to speak. But I think the ideology mixed with the narcissism, I think he wanted a challenge at that point in time too, to basically, challenge him. Because it seemed very clear he could have just taken over at that point. And then basically All Might stepped up, got in the way. There was other heroes that got in the way before him. And it's a kind of thorn in the side for him that he knows he created. I think the narcissism in him and wants to see that overcome. But I think why he did that, because he did want to basically destroy the system more than just basically being, what's the word I'm looking for?
Untouchable. It's funny because you mentioned that, and it makes me think of One Punch Man, which is another show, a lot of fun to watch. And obviously, as the name implies, it's kind of a meta manga in the sense of like it's poking fun at the tropes of like, the guy comes in and he finishes every fight with one punch. He's so incredibly strong, and all these people fight, And then the very first villain he fights is this guy, this like alien from another world who is incredibly strong. And he basically says, he's like, I'm looking for a challenge. I've been traveling the universe trying to find a challenge, going to all these worlds and stuff, doing, destroying them, whatever. Very like Thanos-ish character in that sense, but he's there for a challenge. And he gets beaten by One Punch. And, he's so happy he finally found somebody he could go all out, he could fight to the limit, and he's still lost. And he kind of like says in the moment something to One Punch of essentially like, you're never going to know defeat now. Like, as strong as I was, I've already been everywhere and finally found you here at the end of things, right? Like, everything's going to be a joke to you for forever. Now you're never going to have a challenge. You're never going to have people on your level. Like, they can't relate. You're an existence unto yourself. You're on a different level to everything around you. And like, All for One is very similar to that character, right? Like, his power, his ability to just take everyone else's powers, essentially, puts him in a league all of his own. And the fact is, like, the show even talks about powers in the beginning were less refined than they are now. Yeah. And so, like, as time goes on in evolution, Darwinism, as you mentioned, these things are getting more refined, more powerful, more unique, more niche. And, like, over time, generally speaking, they're becoming stronger than they are. And yet All for One still stands at the top of all these villains, is like,
and I mean, still is a trump card ultimately as far as the mental battle, because if say Deku's the one to beat him, it's because All for One. That's the only reason he's allowed.
It's just one of those things, like.
So there might be something mixed in there too, as far as he could turn it off. I don't know. We don't know. I mean,
there has to be something. There has to be something. To me, there has to be something, because the hubris to give, like, either he didn't understand the power in the first place when he gave it to his brother, or his plan was basically to let him grow enough, let the power grow enough to then beat him when it would be like a good fight, and then he could like take it, give it to somebody else, and do it again, so he could repeat this battle, this epic battle kind of thing, because it has infinite growth potential, right? One for All, as far as we know, there is no limit, other than the fact that it literally is killing the people that have it, but like not fast enough that they're dying before they're able to pass it on. That's the only fear.
Let me ask you this: do you think the show needs to start killing off more characters now, as the villains manifest powers? We kind of see them surpassing some of the heroes we know after the Yakuza arc, and it did seem that kind of went stagnant a bit, to where some heroes that got their asses beat aren't dead.
I mean, yes, right? Like, it's Harry Potter. We need Dumbledore's death. It's got to happen to kick off the next arc. Somebody has to die. I think mostly because, as much as it's a feel-good show, I need to buy the stakes. You've got crazy powers. You've got crazy things going on. People restructuring matter and destroying cities and all this stuff. And just no one ever dies. Everyone gets hurt and gets kissed by, nurse lady or whatever her.
Yeah. Always, she mentioned too, like she's limiting her end of her scope with stuff too. So it's just like, does that? I hear, like, where's the?
It feels like it's foreshadowing a character death. I agree. So, your money, who do you think's going to die? Bubble? Who do you think's going to be the
one? I think All Might is definitely. I thought he might have died last season with the My Villain Academia arc. I feel like very real possibility he's going to die. Endeavor's in there too, with Dabby being his kid. Dabby definitely coming out into League of Villains.
Well, we don't know. This is where we get to, because you and I are both very sure that Dabby is Endeavor's kid. So this could be a mega spoiler. Clear. But the anime hasn't come out and explicitly said this.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think the money is very strongly on that being true. So
I mean, they foreshadowed that and everything else too. So they just didn't come out clearly and say that.
True.
But I mean, Endeavor could be on the list though, as well, as far as death, because Bakugo, Shoto, Deku, kind of the main three heroes, so to speak. Definitely clearly the main three, to where any sort of growth from 1A's class comes from one of those three, with Endeavor. So it's kind of like, all right, if they're going to target him, is it his death that leads to either a fraction between, Deku? We see him not controlling some of the manifestation powers, basically becoming a villain himself in short term, to where he kind of goes berserk. And it's like, we don't know. If there's a big battle, a lot could go wrong. Endeavor's death could be a catalyst for something else. But I think 100% definitely dying next season, Hawks. I don't think there's any way he gets out of that. I don't like, he's playing, double cop. We also don't know if he killed Best Jeanist or didn't. He has his body in a bag to show, like, Dabby that, he means business. Mm-hmm. We see him talk to Best Jeanist, and the next thing you know, it seemed like he did something to him, and we just see Best Jeanist's body in a bag. He's missing. We don't know any other heroes that can clone. We only know that Toga can do that. If he asked Toga, I can go into the weeds here, I think Toga would have told on him and told them that, like, hey, he's playing this.
Toga can transform herself.
Yeah, but you can't make clones. Yeah,
double.
You're right.
Double
so it would have to
be
twice.
It'd be twice. Right, yeah, twice might be able to create. But I thought
but twice wouldn't have went along with that either.
I don't think so.
So either way, with Hawks being, a double agent, I don't think there's a way he doesn't basically get skinned alive by League of Villains, because we've seen that before. They clearly play for keeps, and I think if they don't already know he's playing them or trying to, they're using him to a means to an end, and they're definitely going to get his ass.
Interesting take. Well, because I think it, in some ways, is the rise of Voldemort. I'm going to stick with my Harry Potter all the way through, because
you are committed to it.
Look, man, I really believe this is true. If you disagree with me, I would love someone to come and prove me wrong in the comments and break it down how this is not Harry Potter 2.0. There's the moment in Harry Potter essentially where Voldemort seems like he's got everything he's wanted. He's got the Elder Wand, he's got the school on the ropes, he's taken over the Ministry of Magic and everything else. Like, he's essentially achieved his goals, and at the last moment he's defeated, right? Everything's taken away from him. I see something similar happening with the League of Villains. The fall of the hero society as it stands currently, right? And I see that coming to fruition in several ways. One, the fall of Hawks, potentially. He's like the number 2 hero or something. So he's highly ranked, right? I forget exactly his position.
Well liked, unlike Endeavor.
Unlike Endeavor. Endeavor is the number 1 hero. And one of the big things that they made a point of in the earlier seasons with All Might is the symbol of peace. Him existing and handling things and stuff, like, was part of why people believed in Hero Society, believed in the League of Heroes and everything, or whatever they're called, right? The hero organization, because there was this idea that, like, he showed that heroes could maintain order, law and order, and he's gone now. So the question that throws a lot of cracks into that whole image. And then Endeavor's the new number 1 hero. If Endeavor falls, it completely destroys the faith in the institution of heroes, essentially, that like, hey,
Mhm.
they can't protect us, right? Like heroes aren't strong enough to stop bad things from happening anymore. And I think Endeavor's death specifically is going to be one of those that's important. I still would like to see a betrayal arc. Like maybe that is the catalyst for Todoroki, for example, to go evil, something like that, because his dad fell. Dobby being his brother or something. I kind of doubt it because I don't know that this gets into like the gray area quite as much with things. So I'm expecting like the brothers to face off and stuff.
Well,
But
the betrayal though we still haven't, because it's clear that there's somebody at My Hero on the inside, the hero side, that's feeding League of Villains information. That is hinted at and talked about. That's why Hawks is kind of
you
like
don't
a
think it's
cover.
Hawks who's doing it to maintain cover? You think there's somebody else who's
He
doing it?
could he I mean he could be, but like there's like that's why Hawks is in there, is because they're trying to figure out how they kind of got the upper hand, because they keep finding out where they're whatchamacallit training at, where they're taking the students.
Mm-hmm.
There's something else on the inside there that they're missing. That it was kind of hinted at. So that's why Hawks was given that mission. But it still seems kind of evident that Hawks has his own kind of agenda, which we don't know. And I think even too, regardless if he had to kill Best Genius to save cover, that still puts him in a position to where I don't think Endeavor would forgive that. That would be at least a fight between 1 and 2 then. So there's a lot of things going on there, but I just think the villains know Hawks is playing. I think the villains are using him to a means to an end. Will definitely get him. I do think there's room for betrayal as far as inside, as who could it be? I don't know. Yeah, looking at the other characters as far as the teachers, that's tough.
In terms of the teachers being the traitors,
who could be the traitors? Lady Midnight's very serious. The guy that makes DeCray, he seems pretty serious himself, and we don't know. There could be characters we haven't been introduced yet to as well.
Or I would Toga dislike that from story perspective. I would dislike a random character being introduced. Well, just for like a random character being introduced and being the traitor. I want it to be somebody that we have a connection with, that we care about being the traitor. So I hope it's among the people that we already know.
That's the thing too. I think with the show, we haven't really talked about either. In the first season, like when Deku sees All Might rescue everybody in the fire, it's this big blaze. It's like one of those monumental moments for All Might and his heroism and his symbol of peace. Miyadora tears in his eyes, pointing at the screen, asking his mom, like, could that be me? And then his mom's crying, knowing that like it could never be him because he doesn't have a quirk. That is a moment too that like pulls at your heartstrings. And I think All Might's final battle, to where we know his final battle with All for One left him basically gravely wounded, to where he can only use his powers for X amount of time. And the more he used it and pushed that limit, the shorter that time span got. And basically he uses it all up with his final battle to basically save All for One from taking a step further and, essentially, to your point, destroying the hero class society as we know it in season, 4 thereabouts.
Yep.
At that moment, that fight scene, I didn't know what was going to happen. Didn't know if he was going to die or not. And like that had me, emotional. I was like, oh my God, it really pulls in your attention because there's so much character development, so much going on. And it's very clear too that like if he lost in that moment, all the favorites that we liked, then Shoto, Deku, Gravity, they were going to be dead in an instant, because we saw 3 of the top 5 heroes get wiped out in a single blow at that moment in time. So it was just like, there's no one that can even stand toe to toe him except for All Might. And Deku is light years behind him. I mean, Endeavor was, years behind him as well in terms of raw power.
Yeah. I mean, Endeavor, it's interesting because I feel like Endeavor might have really got shafted, frankly, as not being the number 1 hero, because I feel like toe to toe, like he probably could go up against All Might, like before All Might like began diminishing or whatever. But I think it's the emotional issues that Endeavor has that kind of like prevents him from living up to his full potential, essentially. It's very interesting. So our predictions, looking forward, and maybe bring this towards a close of some sort. Looking forward, we are, I think, agreed that there will be a fall of Hero Society.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're betting on that's happening. We're betting on a death, someone dying.
At least one death.
At least one death. You're betting on Hawks.
Hoping for more, though.
We're both betting on Endeavor. You're also betting on Hawks.
Hawks is, in my opinion, the odds-on favorite. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Endeavor or All Might either. I also wouldn't care if it's all 3. You know me, like I'm all for heroes dying.
Kill everyone.
And it's just like
Jesus
like that's why I kind of got Kills one of my favorites, because it's like nobody was safe in that show.
Yeah. True.
And that's what makes it compelling to me, because it's like, what the hell's going to happen next? It keeps you hooked. And in the sense of villains make the heroes, if the villains have a body count that's staggering all of a sudden, yeah, I want to see the growth then. Like, how does that change, Bakugo and all these guys teetering then on, what it means to be a hero. And then will they kind of become anti-heroes themselves and take some lives? Don't know.
See, so we are betting on a death. We're almost hoping for a death is what it sounds like, for consequences and for plot driving. And you know what that means, right? After someone dies and Hero Society falls, we're going to have the not in school arc. So they're going to be outside of school. They're going to miss graduation. I'm telling you, man, it's fucking Harry Potter.
Did you read the manga?
No. No.
I'm teasing. I can see your Harry Potter thing.
I stand by it. I stand by this.
I'm not knocking. I'm just not as big a Harry Potter fan as you.
I know.
I wouldn't even say I'm even that much of a Harry Potter fan. It doesn't bother me per se.
Doesn't bother you. What a
right,
absolutely neutral opinion.
Any character that you wish would just die, that you hate and don't care for at all,
that I would like to just be dead.
Yeah,
fucking Tails. Like his Tailman, really, like his name is Tailman. His entire power, that is literally his entire power. Is like he has a tail. Yeah. He has a prehensile tail. Like that is his only power. It's just fuck off, go away. I don't care. You're stupid. You don't belong in this class. After they go to the trouble of like showing us that like people have tiered powers and some people have the potential to be heroes and some people don't. You're telling me this motherfucker has the potential? Just get out of my face. I don't care. Kill him off, please.
No, he's pretty trash. I'm with you there. Yeah, I think the animal guy irks me because he doesn't talk and he just looks like I don't know, like the way he looks. It sounds terrible. The way he looks pisses me off because it's like he looks like an anchovy, but it's like he's never described as if he's like an actual animal or not. And so you can talk to animals, but you look like an anchovy had sex with a rock, and it's just like I don't understand why that's your makeup.
Yeah, no, I don't.
You know what I mean?
It's true. I don't understand why some of the characters look the way they do because it doesn't seem tied to their powers at all.
We see that with a lot of like. Froppy looks like a frog. You know what I mean? She has frog, like she has webbed feet and stuff. She has a long tongue. Him, it's just like, what's going on with you, bro? Like, what's the deal? You know what I mean? It's the same thing with Spinner. Like, why are you a lizard, man? Like, you're a swordsman, but you're a lizard. Like,
well, they even made fun of that in the most recent story arc of like, what's your power really? Like, you're here with all these like fucking kick-ass villains, right? With all these crazy powers, and they're getting powered up even in your what, lizard man? Like seriously? You're a giant iguana? Like what are you gonna do?
So, but all right, before we go to, I don't know when the new season's coming out, so I feel like we should at least
later this year. I want to say March is when March 20
fall 2022. So fall of this year is when it's coming out.
Fall of 2020. Yeah. March. Yeah. I'm sorry. March was the 5th season. The March of last year.
So it'll be season 6. There are 3 movies. Unlike Demon Slayer, though, the movies kind of stand alone, canon, their own kind of thing. I think they do tie together to a certain degree, but you don't need to watch the films to follow along. If you are watching it, though, Funimation, Crunchyroll, I don't think it's on Hulu. No, I'm sorry, it is on Hulu. It's not on Netflix. So any of those streaming services, go check it out. Enjoy it. I think we'll probably be done with anime for a little bit. At least we, hit you guys with 2 heavy anime episodes. Not a bad thing. We definitely still have some other animes we want to talk about, including Demon Slayer down the road, or maybe go dive into the cultural wars with anime perception and sexualization. I think why not? But I think next time we do a non-spectator mode episode, and which again, spectator mode weekly episodes, check them out as well. Kind of our breaking news bits, pretty quick, short hits, 20, 30 minutes. I think next thing we'll do, either have a guest on the show. I know we keep hinting at that. I'm kind of feeling a God of War episode at some point too, maybe close to a release date. But I think maybe do a League of Legends show or something, get somebody on here.
Yeah, bring back the video game vibes. The who say over my podcast, saving over is very video game terminology that we've not been capitalizing.
I think we do a nice blend. I think it's nerd culture, but video game focused. But let's end it though on the classic. What are you playing? What are you watching? What are you doing?
Playing God of War. We talked about this before the episode filmed. I just finished playing God of War 4 on PC. I'm just short of 65 hours in. Finished the whole thing. I'm missing a few collectibles and stuff. I thought it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. There were a few things that I don't know if I loved about the changes in terms of like the change in perspective and like the lack of like aerial was gone, right? Jumping and stuff wasn't a thing anymore. So it felt similar-ish to like other games and titles and stuff branded under God of War maybe, but overall really enjoyed it, really looking forward to the sequel. What am I watching? Next on my list is Hawkeye, actually. I haven't got through Hawkeye yet on Disney Plus, and I really, really, really want to.
I think you're like,
I mean, fingers crossed, because I was unenthused about the What If series, which I think was the last Disney Plus series before Spider-Man. When you watch Spider-Man No Way Home, maybe some mild spoilers here, but suddenly the What If stuff has more tie-in to No Way Home. So like that conversation that we keep having, that I keep fearing, the show's becoming a necessity to stay abreast of the cinematic universe of the movies. Definitely No Way Home reference stuff from the What If, which I thought of everything was going to be the least important of the shows. All these alternate universes, and it's answering the question, what if? I figured it was like discardable. We want to show some like funky stuff, like have some fun with it.
Well, that's how the comic book series was.
Exactly. And then it ended up being referenced in No Way Home, and I was like, well, shit. And then I told my fiance, because she wasn't like feeling the vibe on the stuff, and I was like, just watch like these episodes so you understand references in No Way Home. Like it provides some context.
Yeah, that's honestly a big reason why I haven't watched it yet. Because I mean, a big What If the comic book series fan. I have 3 of them framed actually. I mean, what if Punisher kills a Daredevil? What if the X-Men die in their first mission, which still is one of my favorite comic book covers, because it's just Professor X sitting there crying in the graves of Cyclops and Jean Grey. And it's just hilarious because it's like, what would happen? Like, they were kids. You said I'm on a fucking life or death mission, you idiot. Like, what? Why would you think that was a good idea? So to me, it cracks me up. But that was the joys of that series, was because it was just these one-off episodic, like, yeah, like what if we just went the complete opposite direction, or just used a bit of just, common sense and logic in this world of fantasy, you know?
Right.
And I mean, I've heard good things of the What If series, but it's just, again, since it ties into MCU and it kind of creates its own universe.
Yeah.
To me, it gets away from the heart of the show, so I just haven't been enthusiastic to watch it.
No, and I agree. And it's animated as well, which is going to be make or take for some people, or take it or leave it for some people. I don't know. It ended up relating at least mildly to No Way Home, so it ended up being relevant. So I don't know. Anyway, point being, it left a mediocre taste in my mouth. So I'm looking forward to Hawkeye, and I have more positive feelings towards that. Jeremy Renner, I think, is a severely underestimated actor.
No, I agree with you. I think you'll like it though. I'm playing Spider-Man new DLC. I shouldn't say new DLC. The 3-part DLC I finally go to. Went back a New Game Plus, finally platinumed it on the 3rd DLC now. So enjoying that playthrough. Also got an Apex Legends, caved and got that, with the Overwatch crew. Enjoying it. It's not bad. So what's up?
How's that going? Apex, huh?
It's not bad. It's my first battle royale. I mean, I won 2 games last night. So I mean, I was killing it. I was like, hell yeah. You know what I mean? I'm only been, basically 2 days.
Turn off the hacks and tell me how you like it.
So it's I haven't played any ranked matches yet though either, and so I'm still playing against kind of noobs and whatnot, but it's not bad. It's enjoyable. I could see people's fun. I can also see it losing its luster pretty quick too, but new first battle royale for me, so there's a lot of new things there, and I enjoy a challenge too of learning a new way to play a shooter and whatnot. As far as watching, Book of Boba Fett is pretty much the main thing as far as current.
Keep forgetting about that. I gotta get into
right now. Yeah, and then Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer. Probably after we get done recording here, I'll check out the new episodes for that. Those are the 2 big things, both streaming right now. I mean, Attack on Titan, I'm sure we'll have a recap once it's all said and done.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see.
We'll come back to our predictions and see how well we did, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting more gray hairs watching that show, straight up. But Demon Slayer has been good though. So as always, guys, appreciate y'all listening. Appreciate the support. Let us know what your top 3 characters are, what your squads are in the comments. Give us a like, give us a follow. Appreciate it. And until next time, guys.